Hello everyone, I am back. Just made a video on Radiance Vanguard Void and how to play it. But a lot of people ask me why exactly these items and why do I reason like this and why exactly this build. So many different things are being asked by people who have played it and been successful but just don't know exactly what they're doing and why. So I figured I would just share my reasoning and how I came up with the idea to go for Radiance and Vanguard, Aquila, and all these things together, and exactly why it's a good build. So let's go down to the fundamentals of Dota, playing a safe lane carry. The most important thing, first of all, is sustainability, not having to back to base all the time. So you need some HP regen on pretty much every carry. You see it on so many different games. Sven will go for Helm of Dominator, Spectre will go for an Urn, you know, like all these different carries will always have some tool to make them keep farming. Sometimes it's a Vladmir's on a safe lane Lycan or whatever. It's tools to stay in lane and pressure the enemy so that you don't have downtime. This is super important. This is why when we play Void, we have the option. Which regeneration item are we going to go for as a safe laner? Well, Mask of Madness is terrible. I've already explained this plenty of times on stream, but let's say it exactly one more time why. Mask of Madness Void is not a thing anymore because it makes you less tanky. And that's the opposite of what you need to do with Time Walk. With Backtrack it was fine, because you had a chance to completely mitigate all the damage, 25% no chance. Now though, you have a Time Walk that you need to actively cast, you can be chain stunned and killed, and God forbid you have your Mask of Madness on, get silenced, and then just die. I mean, that's absolutely terrible. You get so squishy by using a Mask of Madness, and it just goes against Void right now. It doesn't make any sense to buy that item. Other than the attack speed, it's alright. Um, so with that ruled out, Helm of Dominator comes up as an option. It's pretty good. I gotta give it. Like, a Helm of Dominator can take over some good creeps. You can make big plays with that. Your creeps are able to move in the Chronosphere, so you can get a Centaur and Stomp after Chrono is over, extending your stun duration. The Wolf is pretty good for just increasing your farm speed, or the Orga Magi is great for giving you extra armor against physical lineups. And of course, the Purge creep against Omni Knights and whatever. So there are options and nuances to the Helm of Dominator, but I don't like it as much in every single game because it only gives you armor. It doesn't give you any HP. It doesn't make you tankier. So while it at least doesn't make you squishier, it's not super good either. Then you have another option. There's the Vladmir's. Same thing there though. It gives you tankiness, and this is more of a team item as well, and it doesn't do that much for you individually. Like it's an okay item, but then you don't want to go for Vlads and Aquila because it's kind of waste. You're not gonna have both of those items ever. Um, so it doesn't really make sense for a carry to go for Vlads on Void. It's not a very good item. And finally, we're down to so few items. We already ruled out the Mask of Madness. We said Vladimir's is not so good because team item. And Helm of Dominator can be good, but not always. And Urn is not an option really for a safe lane Void because you're not Spectre. You're not going to be in kills all the time. So there's really not many options for regeneration. But Vanguard has been buffed a lot. It's a strong item. It's really, really powerful. And in the early game, it makes you very tanky. It also buffs your HP pool, which is amazing. That's exactly what we want with Time Walk, more HP pool. Because not only does that work the same way armor does in terms of making you tankier, but it protects you from spells. Early game, you mostly die to spells. You don't die to right clicks because spells are stronger. And then you can ask me, oh, but why are you going Vanguard if you don't like right clicks? Haha, got you. Well, not really. I mean, Vanguard is not meant to block massive damage outputs from a tiny with, Aghanims and Moonshard. It's meant to block a lot of weak sources and make them redundant. That's what it does. So even tanking tower attacks can be possible for a little bit. You can pressure lane so much with this. You can tank creep waves without taking any damage. You stay full HP all the time when you're farming. This is very crucial. You have 100% HP all the time. And that makes you really hard to gank. Really, really hard. How are you going to bring down a Void with more than 1k HP and power treads that he can switch his strength, like 1400 HP-ish? How are you going to bring him down? You need to chain stun him and deal that much damage in short period of time and hope that he doesn't time walk it all and kill you. I mean, that's a dangerous hero to gank. So this is why Vanguard makes a lot of sense to me. Aquila, it goes without saying. It's a super value item. It's to the point that people buy Aquila on Doombringer, on OD, on Invoker. You know, heroes that are not even agility, like Strength and Int heroes buy this. So for an Agile carry, we're definitely getting Aquila. Magic Wand kind of speaks for itself. It's a super good item every time. It gives you the mana that you might need in a team fight as well, because Void does have some mana costs if it's a long extended team fight. Chronosphere does go up to 300 mana cost, and you get so many time walks off in a fight that you might just run out of mana. But with Magic Wand, you're going to be completely fine. And Aquila regeneration, of course. Power Treads, no need to really mention. There's no other boots for a safe lane carry Void. You're not going to go Travels and Split Push. You're not going to go Face Boots because it's shit. You need attack speed. And Mana Boots, none. And Tranquils, no. So, we covered most of the items. Now, why Radiance? Why Radiance? Why not Mjolnir? This is the most common question on my stream right now is, why are you not buying Mjolnir instead of Radiance? So, let's look at what they do. We have already the items that we do, very tanky, very, durable, and I always want to buy items that make me tankier. Like, for a very long time on Void, I will keep buying tanky items. Even my third item after Radiance is going to be tanky. And now you're going to ask me, oh, what? But Radiance isn't a tanky item? Well, yes it is. 17% miss chance for the enemy. It does make you tankier. Effectively, it's also going to have damage all around you, so the enemy cannot blink away. And it synergizes really well with time dilation. You slow the enemy down, and then you just chase them down until they're dead. This is like the Ghostwalk Radiance Invoker all over again. Just that this works, and it's not actually shenanigans. So what does Mjolnir have that Radiance doesn't? First of all, Mjolnir is a little bit more expensive than Radiance. So it's a little bit of a tough comparison for the Radiance. Excuse me. But it's still interesting to make. So Mjolnir, it gives you much more damage in a Chronosphere. When you chrono the enemy, you're going to be much faster at killing them. I'm not going to deny that at all. Your DPS is amazing. The active ability is pretty damn good as well. But one thing that I really don't like, you have to hit the enemy all the time to actually deal damage. You have to be able to hit them to deal the damage. And this sounds so simple and stupid when I say it, but you chase after enemy and they will run from you quite a bit. They might even have items like Force Staff or Ghost Scepter or whatever. And it's just, to me, I really feel that Mjolnir after Vanguard doesn't really synergize that well. It's great for bursting one enemy, like it truly is. But in big team fights, it's not going to mess with everyone as much as a Radiance is. And Radiance, it just has this uptime. No matter what happens in the fight, as long as you're close to the enemy, it's dealing damage non-stop. And if you're close to all 5 of them, I mean, that's a tremendous amount of damage. 250 damage AoE. You're talking a lot of DPS, in fact. And you have the chance to chase people down quite easily by just time walking after them, so they cannot get out of the Radiance AoE. Of course, Mjolnir could be both. I'm just not really feeling that it's a good choice, because as it's more expensive, in my opinion, does less in a big team fight, and it's only better at bursting the enemy, and it doesn't actually give me any survivability. Then between these things, I don't like Mjolnir as much. I've tried it, but I don't like it. And that's pretty much the reasoning for all the items that I mentioned. Of course, after this, I go for Manta Cell almost all the time, and Octarine if I have a good game. Octarine after Manta is also a great pickup. And the reasoning behind this is just that when you're carrying Radiance already, your illusions are going to be extremely good. You can farm with them, you can send them on enemies to cancel Blink Daggers, you can take creep waves on the other side. When you're pushing the enemy high ground, you can just send your Manta illusions to the other lanes to keep the creeps pushing in. There's a lot of things you can do with Manta style, and Manta works in your Chronosphere, which allows for tons of damage. So Manta is quite easy to justify. Also, it can remove silences, which is so wonderful. Sometimes you do have to buy BKB if the enemy has tons of disable and like Ravage and things like this that you need to really not get caught by. But if I can avoid it, I will. I will not go for a BKB unless I have to. And the reason is because Manta Style, again, makes you tanky and survivable. And then Octarine, it also makes you tanky and survivable while eating the enemy spells. They can throw as many spells at you as they want, because then your team is getting untouched. So this is why sometimes I don't like buying BKB on a carry, because if you can just force the enemy to use spells on you, you give space for your team. Whereas if you just pop BKB and run in, well, they're gonna throw spells at your supports and try and burst them. Meanwhile, and maybe they succeed. Maybe they do kill your Dazzle in the backline or something. No, maybe they don't, but it's worth keeping in mind. And of course, you can always pick up a late 10-second BKB if you don't buy it early. So there's a benefit as well. And that's pretty much the reasoning behind all of this. The reason that I prefer to have Void as a safe lane carry, I guess, the big fundamental question, instead of playing him off lane, is that I think Void is pretty bad as an initiator now. You need Blink Dagger, but if you go for Blink Dagger early on, then that's first of all a very expensive item to get. And if you go for it, you have no damage output. You don't have Treads, you don't have Vladimir's. You know, if you don't get these items, you're not gonna carry the slightest. You're just a setup. So you're turning yourself into some version of Tide, but you're just, I mean, it doesn't make sense to me at all to have him offlane. Time Walk is not long enough of a range to initiate with most of the time, so that's why I keep hammering about this Blink Dagger being important. I mean, offlane Void is played in competitive and it's used quite a bit, and it can be done, but there are a lot of heroes that can just shut down an offlane Void, like a safe lane OD or safe lane Silencer carry. Like, there are a ton of things that just destroy him to the point of it not even being funny. Whereas Tidehunter has great options. He can always go jungle, he can always find farm. I suppose this is true for offlane Void with Iron Talon, but it's not to the point that he can farm Ancients, right? And that's really the power of an offlane Tide. He can just farm something that no one else on your team is going to farm early anyway, making use of the map in a better way. Sorry for going off on a little bit of a tangent here, but it is a big question, why safe lane Void? And the final answer is pretty much that I find him to be really hard to kill on the safe lane, which makes him a reliable carry. And I think he does well with items. I mean, back in the days before Void got changed, people ask who's the best late game carry in the game. Void would be there as a mention. Sure, between a lot of other theoretical, you know, Tinker Chain Disable and CK with his solutions, whatever. Void simply can kill anything in the late game. With Chronosphere and Bash, you can do tremendous damage. So why not utilize that? That's pretty much the reasoning behind the things that I've said in my previous video and why I'm playing this. I hope that you enjoy this, and I'm gonna go and stream now. So take care, stay hydrated, have fun, guys. Bye-bye.